the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi. He joins me tonight from Washington. Mr. Your Royal Highness, welcome to The Nation Wants to Know. It's good to have you on the program. And if I can refer to you henceforth as Mr. Pahlavi, Mr. Pahlavi has been calling for regime change in Iran. And he feels that this is the time to push the envelope. And so that takes me to my first question to you, Mr. Pahlavi. Why would you want the world, led by the United States, Israel and others, to push the envelope when you are aware that that could lead to further global instability, which is the last thing that the world needs right now?
Let me begin by explaining the fact that I have been critical overall of a basic flaw in the foreign policy of Western governments in their dealing with the current regime occupying my homeland. From the very beginning, there was an expectation of behavior change, and all the policies implemented, including sanctions, were with the aim to force the regime back to negotiation and understanding. The very premise of expecting behavior change from a system that in its entirety, in its DNA, in its entire reason for existence, was to export a religious ideology in the region and beyond, it cannot coexist in the world where democracies, where human rights and liberties are respected, for them to be able to coexist with their ideology at the same time. Therefore, all these years we've seen attempts to try and reach some compromise, thinking that the regime could reform itself. And in the meantime, the Iranian people have been suffering and suffering with no change in sight. My argument about why a change of regime in Iran will be in the best interest of the Iranian people, who are the first people to ask for it, by the way. It's not a matter of a foreign government deciding our fate. It's the Iranian people who want that. But they demand the world to support them, because this regime, as long as it exists, it will continue to create the kind of problems we've seen all these decades, which means not only repression at home against its own citizens, but aggression abroad, using its proxies like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like Islamic Jihad, like the Houthis, to disrupt world commerce, to meddle into the affairs of neighboring countries, and most importantly, in the recent clash that we have seen. This regime does not desire what's best for the Iranian people. It is simply trying to ascertain itself. And if the world wants to put away once and for all the problems that were caused by this regime, there's only one solution left. If we don't want escalation, if we do not want military confrontation, but a change that comes from within at the hand of the Iranian people themselves. This is where the world can make a key decision of finally helping the Iranian people this time, as opposed to insisting on negotiating with a regime that will never be willing to come to terms with the values that
Mr. Pahlavi,
the free world stands for.
I understand. But I'm sure that I'm sure you wouldn't disagree with me that the Iranians would have done their own geostrategic analysis of the situation. You mentioned the fact that Iran has been working through, its proxies, the three H's, Hezbollah, Houthis, and Hamas. But isn't it possible that Iran itself is a proxy for other global powers? Because Iran on its own would not have dared to carry out the kind of attack it did as a counter-response on Israel without having planned the grand strategy of what would follow. So perhaps they are also working for someone else's interests beyond their own.
By the way, Arnab, I would very much appreciate if people like yourselves, as a member of the media and other colleagues of yours, refer to the situation not as Iran, meaning the people of Iran, and instead say the regime. The Iranian people are very sensitive about the fact that they keep mentioning Iran, and we as Iranians do not stand 1 second with what this regime is doing. So let's call it the Islamic regime and what it's doing, or the Islamic Republic. It is true, they have been pretty much held in power by means of their dependence on some foreign powers. Example, Russia. For a long time, the Russians have been helping the regime with its military and intelligence forces. The current Moscow-Tehran axis, as Tehran is helping Putin fight his war against Ukraine, is an example. As such, clearly, the regime has also some partners that have a different viewpoint as far as the geopolitics of the region is concerned. However, I think the majority of the countries around the globe realize that in the long term, nobody will benefit from such instability. It's not good for security, it's not good for commerce, and the root cause, again, is the regime disrupting all of this. So regardless of whether or not this regime may have some allies, but it has far many more adversaries insofar as the free world is concerned. This is where the Iranian people stand together with the free world against a regime that is repressing them and is not offering them a chance to self-determination. I believe that once Iran is freed, you will see a completely different picture and demeanor as it relates to regional peace and cooperation and our relationship worldwide with anybody that's willing to respect our independence and sovereignty.